It's an original song sang when you feel like an outcast and you feel you're misunderstood. I'm seek my brothers, where are they shepherding their sheep? You thought evil of me, God thought good of me in order to save you from famine. It's the from around the first line is from the beginning of the story of Joseph when he only wanted the welfare of his brothers. He only wanted to make peace between his brothers. He didn't know how to as a young man. And then at the end of the story, they sell him into slavery to Egypt, and then there's a famine in the land, and the brothers come back 20 years later, and they don't know that he has actually saved Egypt from famine as the second in command of the country. And to make a short story long, he says at the end, you thought I was evil of me, meaning that I was just trying to make trouble and get you in trouble with our father Jacob. But God thought good of me because the whole thing, yes, surely he admitted there's any wrongdoing. However, it was all in order to that he could save the whole Middle East from famine and to keep the brothers alive, and so the Jewish people would come into the world and bring world peace. Okay, so it goes like this. את אחי אנוכי מבקש, את אחי אנוכי מבקש, אגיד נא לי, איפה הם רואים? את אחי אנוכי מבקש, את אחי אנוכי מבקש, תלה לי, איפה הם רואים? אתם חשבתם עלי רעה, אלוהים חשבה לטובה, למען נעסוק היום הזה, להחיות עם רב. את אחי אנוכי מבקש, את אחי אנוכי מבקש, אגידה נא לי, איפה הם רואים? So, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Rabbi Phil, or Rabbi Betzalel. I was ordained as an Orthodox rabbi 20 years ago here in the Rabbi Bravender's yeshiva. I taught in yeshivas for a few years. I translate books on the Hasidic and Kabbalistic thought. I am also a human being and live here in Jerusalem for many years. I try to be a human being. And often I succeed. Now, the teachings that we're going to do here are the teachings of Rabbi Yehuda Leib Ashlag. Yehuda Leib Ashlag, the preeminent Ashkenazi Kabbalist and popularizer of the Zohar and the Kabbala in the 20th century, and it's just starting in the 21st. In the great Rabbi Chaim Bravender Shlita mentioned a week ago that in his, he said, Ashlag is closed shop. Those were his words. Quote, Ashlag is closed shop. I said to him, no, it's actually just beginning, really, from what I see. Now, I don't know where he may get his information. I don't know where I get I know where I get my information from the family and the my teacher, Rabbi Avraham Brandwein of blessed memory, was the son of Yehuda Tzvi Brandwein of blessed memory, who was the Talmid Muvhak, the top student of Rabbi Yehuda Leib Ashlag, the great commentator, translator, commentator, explainer, educator, I guess you could say, of the Kabbalah and the Zohar. So, and I see there's many people. I'm not talking about the self-help movements of Kabbala University and the Kabbalah Center. They sell red strings and make a lot of money off of the Kabbalah. If you go to a Kabbalist and he's irrational, first of all, and even if he is reasonably rational, because Kabbalah has its own kind of inside logic to it. He starts getting it with money, and you give them money, and there's subscriptions and money involved, and you can suspect it of being a cult. Tuition, I guess, it's another thing, but the other thing is Kabbalah is only really expressed in Hebrew. In English, it's something removed, akin to let's say a king or a great wise man who has a son, and the son goes and tells other people about his father's teachings or his master's teachings, and it's already not exactly the source, it's removed from the source. So what I'm teaching in English is not, I'll read the original, but the translation is already something removed. If you truly want to study the depths and the beauty and the wisdom and the awesomeness of the Kabbalah, it's really in Hebrew, in the original, Aramaic and Hebrew. So let's get started. First, I just want to say that what I heard from Rabbi Avram Brandwein of blessed memory many years ago in Tzfat was that there's a verse, with the transmission, talking about the transmission of the teachings of the esoteric teachings of the Torah, the inside depth and light of the Torah, is there's a verse in the Psalms that said, "Alita lamarom shavita shevi." You went up to heaven and you took a captive. You went up on high and you took a captive. This could be Moses going up to Mount Sinai and taking the captive back in the Torah, but what's the captive really? So the captive Shevi means it's a Roshe Tevot, the initial letters of Shin Beit Yud. Is Shevi is Shin Beit Yud. That's how you spell the word Shevi, captive. So Shimon Bar Yochai is also the Roshe Tevot, the initial letters of the name of Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar, 2,000 years ago. He didn't write, he spoke, and his scribe Rabbi Abba wrote down, and it was passed on from master to disciple. Anyhow, Shimon Bar Yochai is Shin Beit Yud, Shevi. So what did Moses come back? He took down Shimon Bar Yochai. So we say that's a reincarnation. The belief is that Moses was reincarnated into Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And the belief is that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was reincarnated into the Baal Shem, the Rabbi Isaac Luria. So the same soul of Moses first goes to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, then it goes to Rabbi Isaac Luria, the Arizal of Tzfat, in the around the year 5315, 5,000 is 500. The year Shin Yudalit, about 400 years ago in Tzfat. And he explains the esoteric teachings. Rabbi Isaac Luria explains the esoteric teachings in a systematic way to a closed group of select students. He took the awesome power of the Zohar and explained it in a systematic way. So he was Yitzchak ben Shlomo. His father was named Shlomo. So Yitzchak Yud ben Bet Shlomo. That's also Yud Bet Shin, the same letters as Shevi. Same initial letters as are found in Shimon Bar Yochai, the Rabbi Shimon. So then there was this, I said, it was a select closed group of students, and then from master to disciple, the Arizal, until today, they went all the way to the year. Now we're moving ahead to the year Taf Kuf Kaf, 5,520 from creation. That's 1760, the way they count. So in that year passed away a great light, Rabbi Yisrael ben Sara, the Baal Shem Tov, Israel, son of Sarah. That's Yud, Shin, Yud, Beit, Shin. Again, Yisrael, Yud, Ben, Beit, Sarah, Shin. Sin and Shin are the same, just a slightly different pronunciation, same shape of the letter. So, so again, what did he do? He took all the depth that and awesome light in the inside of the teachings of the Kabbala, of the Zohar, which are the works of creation and the secret of creation and the secrets of the chariot. Chariot is how God runs the world, and so that's he took it and he made an esoteric closed teaching accessible to Moshe the water carrier and Beryl the shoemaker, as well as the scholars, his top students, the Rabbi Yaakov Yitzchak of Polnoy, a great scholar, rabbi and scholar. So even, he made it accessible to everybody. How did he do this? He managed to bring it down, as they say, meaning the essence of the teachings in a way that even a simple Jew with a soul, with a revealed soul, can access this depth and this light of the tradition. Then we move forward. Okay, they created the glorious traditions of the Hasidim, and then you have move up to the 20th century, the way they count it, to the year around 5,610, 20 or so, around the turn of the century. 1900 in the beginning, Rabbi Yehuda Leib Ashlag was born in Poland. Then he moved to England a little bit, then Israel, and then England, and then back to Israel. And he was the rabbi of Givat Shaul in Jerusalem, one of the neighborhoods in Jerusalem. He was the community rabbi, and his name was Yehuda ben Shlomo. Yehuda ben Simcha. Yehuda ben Simcha is Yud Bet Sin, like the Yisrael ben Sarah, and Yitzchak ben Shlomo, and Shimon bar Yochai. That's also Shevi. So this captive was the soul of Moses, going from the Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai in the Zohar to Rabbi Isaac Luria with the Eitz Chaim and the Kabbalah of Tzfat, and then in the 18th century to the Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Yisrael, the Baal Shem Tov, and the Hasidim, and then in the modern times, published around 1950, it was Rabbi Yehuda Leib Ashlag published his commentary on the Zohar and many introductions to Kabbalah he was a very prodigious writer. That's Shevi. So Rabbi Brandwein, of blessed memory, my teacher, told me once how wonderful private conversations with him. He helped me tremendously for 16 years. And he said that he would spend 8 hours a day, or all day, maybe more, at home thinking. They would see him go out, and they're in the street. They'd see him come out to the mirpeset, to the porch of his apartment. He lived in a simple apartment. He was a very simple man. And went back writing, and then walking around thinking, contemplating how to explain the Zohar, how to translate, how to explain the concepts, developing a new way to explain these concepts based on the Baal Shem Tov and the Arizal. So they say, and that's Yehuda Leib Ashlag. We call him the Baal HaSulam, master of the ladder. Sulam is ladder. Because he said in his introduction, one of his introductions, his whole purpose of writing a translation into modern Hebrew of the Aramaic of the Zohar, translated into modern Hebrew for the first time, and a system of concepts based on the Arizal and the Baal Shem Tov. He says, it's like a ladder that you need to go up to sublime teachings of the Zohar and the Arizal and the Baal Shem Tov. The student and the reader can get up there. So I call it the Sulam. That's also evocative of Jacob's ladder, connecting heaven and earth. So let's get into it a little bit. we're going to read the first paragraph in the introduction to the wisdom of Kabbalah, the P'tichad l'chokhmat Kabbalah by Rabbi Yehuda Leib Ashlag, and then if we have time, we're going to start one of the Maimarim in the introduction to the Zohar. Maimar is an article in one of the sections of the introduction to the Zohar. Rabbi Chananya ben Akashya Amar Ratzah Kadosh Baruch Hu lezakot et Yisrael lefichach yirba lehem Torah mitzvot shneimar Adonai chafetz leman sikol yagdil Torah v'yadir. This is one of his most famous teachings of the Medrash in Makot, in the Gemara Makot, Daf Kaf Gimel for those who study Gemara, second folio. Rabbi Chananya ben Akashya, in the great sages of the Mishnah, says in the Mishnah that God, Pirkei Avot, it's in Makot, sorry. The Holy One, blessed be He, wanted to refine Israel. Therefore, He increased for them Torah in mitzvot, gave them a lot of Torah in mitzvot, in order, why? To refine us. He gave us Torah and mitzvot to refine us. As it is written in the Torah, Adonai chafetz leman sidkol yagdil Torah v'yadir. In the Tanakh, it says, God desired for the sake of His justice or righteousness to increase Torah and make it beautiful. So increasing Torah and making it beautiful, He increased the Torah. He gave us a lot of Torah, a lot of mitzvot. The Torah is wider and longer than the sea. There's no end to the Torah. There's 70 explanations for every letter in the Torah and more. There's a never-ending continuum of tradition that going all the way back from Adam to Moses and to our very generation down to you and me. Humble you and humble me. So why did He do it? To refine us. So the Rabbi Ashlag says, Nodash zakut tu milashon hizdachakut. Zakut, meaning it means to merit. God wanted to give us merit, so He gave us a lot of Torah and mitzvahs. So it doesn't just mean merit, so we'd merit serving God by means of His Torah. Why did He give us the Torah? To give us merit, so we could follow the Torah. What? Okay, great, we have merit. It's a reason to live, right? Good behavior, deep wisdom, ethical behavior. So, but zakut also means hizdachut, refine. He wanted to refine Israel, and that's like the Torah says. The Talmud says that the Torah was only given in order to refine, litzaref, to not just refine, but litzaref is like smelting in the crucible. The Torah was given us to smelt us like metal, like silver or gold, to take the dross out, and what remains is pure gold or silver. Like it says in Breshit Rabbah in the Medrash. So there you can understand this matter of refinement that we get by means of Torah and mitzvot. Rabbi Ashlag writes that what's the coarseness within a human being that we need to refine? That's the first question. What do we need to refine by means of Torah and mitzvot? And we also spoke about this in another one of my commentaries, the Panim Maspirot. Incidentally, that's the one he wrote he was living 2 years in Stanford Hill in London back in the 20s. And he discussed this in a book he wrote there, and he also in his commentary. He didn't just write a commentary on the Zohar. He said in my commentary on the Eitz Chaim of the Arizal, he wrote a complete commentary explaining the writings of the Arizal, which is quite complex anyway. And he explains it from the tradition with certain innovations in original concepts. So I mentioned this in my 2 books. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to say it back Bekitzur Nimratz. So he says that very briefly I'm going to say, because God's thought of creating the world was in order to give the benefit to His creations. He created us so we could benefit from His goodness. As much as He can give. God is goodness and giving, and we benefit. Why did He create us? So we could benefit from what He has to give. God is all giving. So here it's imprinted in the souls, the will and the desire, the great desire to receive God's plenty. God's shefa is plenty. So that's imprinted in us, because the will to receive is the vessel that for which we, for the attribute of of delight, to delight in the plenty that God gives us, because according to the greatness and of the desire to receive God's plenty, so too, corresponding to that, is the amount of pleasure that we get and from that plenty. And as much as you desire is as much as you get. Not more and not less. And they're connected one to the other until there's no difference between them except in terms of the ratio. The more you desire God's goodness, the more you get God's goodness. The more you desire the bounty and the plenty that He has to give in His shefa, as we call it. Again, shefa, define the terms. Shefa is what God gives us. Its shefa could be a car, a supermarket, great learning institutions, whatever, wisdom. No, it's the inside of all these things. It's the inside power of in the food, the spiritual. As Rabbi Brandwein of blessed memory told us, that the outside goes according to the inside. Meaning the inside is what influences the outside. It's not the outside that influences the inside. So the inside is God's shefa, God's plenty, His spiritual gift that is the life force and the source of all goodness and delight and that we have. So if it necessary follows that these two things, God's giving and our receiving, our desire to receive and the goodness and our desire for delight and the goodness and delight He wants to give, they're all drawn from God, because everything's coming from God. And that was God's plan when God's thought of creating the world. But we have to make a distinction that the plenty comes. The plenty is coming from His essence. May it be blessed. God's essence. Everything's coming from God's essence. So the plenty is coming from God's essence. That is to say, that it's drawn substance from substance, something from something, not ex nihilo, but it's he's throwing in a concept here that there's creation ex nihilo. He says, sun and moon, let there be light, and there's light. Boom. So there was no light, now there's light. There was no universe, now there's a universe. Okay. Big Bang, however you want to explain it. So, but no, he's saying if the plenty is something and it's drawn from God's essence, that something is coming from something. And so it must be that in that giving, that God force of giving, that the will to receive is included in that force of giving. And that's the source of all creation. That is to say, it's the source of the source of the creation, that is to say, the source of the whole renewal, which we call something from nothing. So where's something from nothing? It's the will to receive included. God is all giving, so how can we have any reception? He's just giving. He doesn't have anything called reception. He doesn't need to receive anything. He's just giving. So that's creating ex nihilo, is the will to receive. There was no will to receive in God because He's all giving, so that He created ex nihilo, something from nothing. God forbid that God would have anything that He needs to receive, because He's perfect. He doesn't lack anything. He's all about giving. So that's the wonder of creation, that He created a will to receive. And all of the material, so to speak, of the creation, from the beginning to end, until all the plethora of creations, the plants, the animals, the minerals, the atoms, the quarks and quasars, the photons, they're all the plethora of creation, and the way they act without measure and the way they behave were already revealed in God and they're already going to be revealed. It's all there in the beginning, all there in that initial will to give, to bestow, as they say, from God's essence. And it's not just measures and changing of values of the will to receive and everything that is in those creations, that is to say, everything that is received from the will to receive, that is imprinted in the creation, in us, everything is drawn from God's will, may he be blessed, something from something. And there's nothing in the aspect of creation that is renewed next nilo. Very interesting phrase. Eno klum mi bechinat abriya amuchodeshet yesh me'ayin. Ki eno mechodash klal, because he's just giving, so there's no what he's giving. His plenty is giving is yesh miyesh. It's all coming from his essence and totally connected to his essence. And that's all drawn from his eternity, may he be blessed, something from something. So again, something from God is all about giving. He gave us the Torah and mitzvot to not just to give us merit, but to refine ourselves. He's all about giving. There's a direct correspondence between how much good you want to receive and how much good God gives, and that it could not be that God has any will to receive because he's all giving and he's lacking nothing. So that was the creation. So the good that he gives us, the delight and the plenty that he gives, is coming from God's, as a continuum of substance from God's essence. And included within that, there was a wondrous creation ex nihilo of a will to receive. And so that's a good opening. God willing, we'll be teaching from the actual Zohar soon. Let me finish again with one of my songs. אני כבת אלוהים לי טוב, שתי באדוני אלוהים מחסי, לספר כל מלאכותיך. ואני כבת אלוהים לי טוב, שתי באדוני אלוהים מחסי, לספר כל מלאכותיך. ואני כבת אלוהים לי טוב, שתי באדוני אלוהים מחסי, לספר כל מלאכותיך. אני כבת אלוהים לי טוב, שתי באדוני אלוהים מחסי, ספר כל מלאכותיך. קום אלוהים ריבה ריבך, זכור חרפתך מננבל כל היום. קום אלוהים ריבה ריבך, זכור חרפתך מננבל כל היום. אל תשכח כל צורריך, שעון קמך עולה תמיד. אל תשכח כל צורריך, שעון קמך עולה תמיד. שעון קמך עולה תמיד. ספר כל מלאכותיך, ואני כבת אלוהים לי טוב, שתי באדוני אלוהים מחסי, ספר כל מלאכותיך. Thank you very much, and tune in next time.